Hi to everyone. In this section of the video, we'll be presenting to you a method for setting up a Tejas 4-port GPON OLT. So the 4-port GPON OLT is also codenamed as the Omega OLT. So this is a OLT which has 4 PON ports and 5 uplink ports. Hence, it's termed as a 4-port GPON OLT. In this video, section 1 will present to you the physical overview of the OLT. Section 2, we will present the software login to the OLT web browser graphical user interface, and we'll explain the setting up of the OLT from the factory default state. In the third section of the video, let us say that you already have a configured OLT with you, and for some reason you want to apply or bring back the OLT to a factory default state. That shall be covered here. So before we proceed, first let us understand the term factory default state. What is a factory default state? Basically, we can understand that the configurations are in a deleted state, or we can say the OLT is in a 0 state and all the settings are in the default factory configured state. For example, the IP settings, the port status, the images of the ONT are all erased or deleted, and its associated service profiles are all deleted, and more. However, an important point to note is that the software and firmware versions are not deleted, or they are not rolled back to an older version or to the version from which the OLT was shipped from the factory. So the software and the firmware remain as it is. However, the configurations alone are brought to the 0 state. So now let's proceed to the physical overview of the OLT. So we'll present you a picture of the OLT and explain the various ports and also the physical parameters. We'll show you a front side photograph of the OLT. So we can see this is a OLT. Tejas product code for this particular OLT is shown here, TJ1400-1G4. On the left side, we see the power supply cable, and this is the power supply card. So here we are presented with a AC voltage power supply unit. It can handle 100 to 240 volts and frequency 50 to 60 Hertz. These are the physical specifications of this particular OLT. It can be typically installed in a 19-inch rack, and it's of a height 1 rack unit, and we can see the height, weight and width measurements here. So this particular OLT is of very small width, so therefore it comes with angle brackets seen here. So these are called the angle brackets. So using this, we can fit the OLT in a normal 19-inch rack as seen here. It can be fit in the rack in this format. Now going back to the front view, on the rightmost side we can see here there is a screw. Here we need to connect the earth or the electrical grounding wire. And here we see the LEDs. So there are mainly two LEDs which need to be monitored. The PWR means the power LED and the fan LED. So once the OLT is powered on, these two need to be in the green state. And coming to the PON ports, it's called a G4 OLT because it has 4 PON ports and each PON port has a downlink capacity of 2.5G and uplink capacity of 1.25G. So we can see the port number P1 listed here. Port number 1 refers to the port on the top and port number 2 refers to the port at the bottom. P1, P2 and this would be P3 and P4. In this particular photograph we can see the port number 4 already there is a GPON SFP inserted and also a fiber is connected and an ONT has been activated, hence the LED is in the green color. On the right side we see a set of ports. These are the uplink ports. So port number 1 refers to the port here on top. So this is the Ethernet port. It has a capability of 1G or 2.5G and we can see an optical SFP has already been inserted here. The fiber has not yet been connected. This is the port number 2 and here this is the port number 3 and port number 4 and this is port number 5. So these 3 ports are the electrical Ethernet LAN ports and they have a capacity of 1G. Here at the bottom we can see another port. This is also an Ethernet LAN port, but this is not a traffic carrying port. These ports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the uplink or SNI traffic carrying ports and this port is used for the local login to the web graphical user interface of the OLT. So we connect a normal Ethernet LAN cable and this goes to the laptop. This port over here is called the console port or the diag or diagnosis port and this is specifically used only for carrying out advanced diagnostics by connecting a diag cable to a serial to USB converter. This concludes the overall physical overview of the OLT. Let's proceed to the next section of the video. Now that we have completed the section 1, let's proceed to the section 2 where we unpack the OLT from a box and we power on the OLT, and once the OLT has booted up, we'll carry out the software login to the OLT web browser graphical user interface. So here we recommend using standard web browsers. For example, you can use the Mozilla Firefox. We see here, this is a browser. To log into the browser, we need to log into the URL of the OLT that's explained here. So the OLT has a default IP address 192.168.1.254. To log into the OLT, we need a laptop. The laptop, we can set a IP address in the same subnet, for example 1.100. So we connect a LAN cable to the OLT directly, and we have shown a picture here. You can refer to this. So let's configure the laptop IP settings first. So we open out the laptop configurations tool. So the network configurations, the Ethernet port we see here, this is this laptop's physical Ethernet port. We open the properties and we set the IP address here. We can see that the IP is set and my physical cable is also connected. So we can see it's listed as network 68. There's no red mark here on the icon. Next, let me open the MOBA Xterm. So this is a freeware available in the internet. So let's open a terminal. Now let's see what is the IP address of my laptop. So we can see here that this is my physical Ethernet port and this is the listed IP address. Now let me ping. You can see that I get a continuous ping response, and when I cancel the ping, we can see that I'm able to immediately exit and there's no packet loss. If there's any packet loss, kindly check your connectivity. Now I'll re-establish the ping. Let's say for some reason your physical connectivity is not through. You would be getting a request timeout. As we see here, there is a drop in the ping, or we can say it's a packet drop. When we go back to the network settings, we see there's a red symbol. So this indicates there is a network connectivity issue. It could be some issue with the physical LAN cable or the port, or maybe wrong IP settings. Now let me rectify the network error. See that within a few seconds I'm able to re-establish the ping response to the OLT. We can see here in the network settings, my settings are rectified. Let's go and log into the web browser, the Firefox browser. We recommend using the HTTPS method of login. So this is the default IP address. So the moment we trigger the login, we get the login page. We can see here on the top, welcome to default. So this is the name of the OLT. As a part of the factory setting, the name given to the OLT is default. And here we have the option to enter the username and password. The default username is Tejas and the password is J72E#05T. So for ease of convenience, let us save the password so that it autofills next time. So the moment we log into the window, we are presented this default screen. It says configure the node. In case we are establishing the login to the OLT, after applying a factory default manually, we would get a message here, configuration missing. However, we have just opened the box from the package and we see here that it's presented a default screen. We see three options. So the first option, it says restore from a previously backed up configuration. Let us say that you have gone to a site and you want to replace a already faulty OLT in the site. Due to some reason, the OLT which is active has gone down and you want to put a new OLT in that place, and you already have on your laptop the configuration file. So we can choose this option. We see here that various options are presented for FTP server entry. Through a FTP server, we'll be able to transfer the configuration file from a laptop or a server to the OLT and restore the OLT to the previous OLT's configuration settings. The moment we connect the fiber, we would be able to recover the traffic. How to restore configuration, we have covered it in another video that is listed in our channel. So now we'll go back to the original screen. We see here the third option, please install the software to proceed. There's a recommendation after you have contacted technical support, and there's a recommendation that you need to upgrade the software of the OLT first and then proceed for further configuration. You can utilize this option here. So again, we see here a window has been presented to apply the FTP server settings. So we load the software into the laptop or a remote server, and then we can transfer the file from there to the OLT and thereupon carry out the software upgradation. So in this section of the video, we are not covering this. This is already covered in another video in our channel. We'll go back to the original screen. We see here the second option, initialize node parameters. Typically, most of the times, this is the option that we want to carry out. So once we click the initialize node parameter, we can see the various fields are presented. So this becomes the home page of the OLT whenever we log in again. So the first is the name. So we can give any name. So I am giving a name Tejas _ lab _ 4p _ OLT. And then we have here the option node configuration. So ADM stands for the add drop multiplexer. So this can be left as it is. We don't need to choose any other option here. The node product code. So this is the 1401 is a model number, and G4 represents that is a 4-port mini OLT. And then we have the option here router ID. So the router ID is the IP address that you would enter here, the IP address to which you would log in to the OLT from the NOC. It's at a particular location and the OLT is at some other remote location, and you want to establish a DCN management scheme to the OLT from the NOC. So you would configure that IP address here. Next is the Ethernet IP address. The Ethernet IP address represents the IP address configured to the physical NMS or the LCT port of the OLT as seen in the picture. So by default, this is the IP address 192.168.1.254, and we recommend not changing that. Let us say that we want to establish outband management. The router ID, as I said, is typically used to establish an in-band management. And if you want to proceed for outband management, by the way, the in-band management refers to a management channel where we are doing the management through the uplink or the data port of the OLT itself. Any of the uplink, Ethernet or SNI ports, we want to establish the management through that. Typically a VLAN based management we will do through the Ethernet SNI ports, and the router ID comes into the play. If we want to establish the outband management scheme, that is through the LCT or the NMS port of the OLT, then the Ethernet IP address also comes into play. So for now, I am not changing this. I am just changing this temporarily or inverting this to 254.1. Here we can see parameters referencing IPv6. So currently we are not configuring anything here. Next is option for gateway IP. Again, we do not need to configure here. We can leave it the default state. And then we have something called data path mode. So we leave it alone as SDH. The selected PTN mode is by default yes. And then we have an option here, zero touch provisioning state. So we recommend leaving this in the default state here as it is. If you click the drop down menu, there are multiple options coming here, but they are not configured. Next is we have an option for IBC VLAN, so this can be ignored. And then there's a AU mode. So we typically recommend using the AU mode 4. Next, we see here the date and time settings. We can see here it's already showing the correct date, January 9th, 2026. And here is the time. So the time, please remember, this is the 24-hour time format. So wherein after 12 represents the PM or the evening and night time, and the numbers below 12 represent the morning or AM. So typically you're setting up the OLT right out from the box. Most likely it would be set in January year 2000. So date and time setting is a critical step. All the alarms and the records and the logs would be referenced to this time. So ensure that a correct date and time is selected. Next is the time zone. So we can see here by default it's the India time zone. So we have various country options and we have different time settings for Australia as well. Next, we see here the display enable and the secondary time zone. So these we keep them in the default state. Now down below we see two options, add a new static route and security initialization. So let's click on this add a new static route. So in case we are doing an outband management through the NMS port of the OLT, this would come into play. However, currently we can ignore this. This can be configured even later. So we close this. We see here an option, security initialization. Let's click this. So this window references the compulsory one-time password change for the OLT. So the OLT login has three types of users: Tejas, a secondary admin, and then a diag user. So there are three default usernames given. All the three password needs to be changed compulsorily. Once the OLT boots up and we get the final login, if needed, we can again alter the passwords anytime later. So let's start with changing this. We can give the original default password as well. It says password is successfully changed. Close the tab. We come back to the security initialization. We choose the second user. This is called the secondary admin. Click submit. So this password is successfully changed. Then we change the last user. This is called the diag user. The diag user is typically used by the Tejas support engineer to perform diagnostic activities. Hence, it is not recommended for the operator or the daily knock user to use this particular ID. Password is successfully changed. Original window or the main page, and we click on submit. The OLT will take a reboot. Meanwhile, we can see here the ping is continuous to the OLT. So we get a prompt here. It says that the reboot is required to establish the changes. So upon clicking the applied valid modifications button, the system automatically accepts the reboot. So we can see here the OLT has become unreachable. The connection has timed out. The reboot time is approximately 3 minutes to recover the ping, and within 5 minutes we would get the browser access. So now we see that we have recovered the ping connectivity to the OLT. So we can see here as well, we do not have any red mark on the icon. So we again open the browser. And carry out the HTTPS login. So from the time the ping is established, it takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes to obtain the browser login. Now we see that we are able to log into the browser. So this is the login page of the OLT. An important change we see here. Earlier it was welcome to default, but now the new name which we have applied to the OLT is displayed here. Now let's log in with the username Tejas and the configured password. We see here immediately the earlier page where we got 3 options for configurations is gone, and we are presented with the actual home page of the OLT. So the very first thing we see here, this is called the any information page. It gives a brief overview of the OLT system, and we can see the LED colors, the power, the status, the ACT, and the fan. So all these are green. We can see the same in the photo shown on the screen as well. On the right side, we see that the fan is working fine. On the left side is a picture of the power supply. We see that here it's a 3-pin system. So this is typically a AC power supply. And here in the middle, we have the various ports. This is a G4 or a 4-port system, 4 GPON port system. Numbering starts from the left side. On the top is the port number 1, and down it's the port number 2. And here again on the top it's port number 3 and port number 4. So we see that the ports are not active. Hence the LED is grayed out, and the ports do not have any SFP inserted on them. Hence the picture shows as capped. Here the port number 1 and the port number 2 are the Ethernet ports or the SNI uplink ports, and insert SFPs here. We have a speed capability of 1G or 2.5G. Here on the right, we see port number 3 and port number 4. And then we have the port number 5 here. So these are the RJ45 electrical Ethernet ports, wherein we can insert a typical 1G capability LAN cable. Here down below, we can see there's a green light glowing. So this port is the port on which we have connected the laptop via a LAN cable. So this is a LAN port, or we can say this is the LCT or the NMS port, or the outband or the outband management port of the OLT. On the right, this is the console cable. This is the place where the diagnosis of the DAC cable is connected. Now let's proceed to the other options on the home page. You can see here the name has been listed, the product type, the Ethernet IP address, and the router ID, which is the DCN management IP address, and then this is the MAC address. So this is the sole identity of the OLT, and whenever you want to interact with the Tejas support team, you need to code this MAC address of the OLT. Here we have options to add the contact phone number, the person's name, and then here we can apply the location or the postal address of the OLT. Here we have a common software version family name listed as 10.0. Actual software version, the detailed version is listed here. On the left side, you can see a menu. We navigate to the folder maintenance, and then we navigate to the option load availability. Here we can see the exact or the detailed version of the software. So this can be abbreviated as R2S1.29. This is the version of the software. And here below we see the firmware. So the firmware typically controls the various hardware features. However, the software is the one which is the application where we are interfacing with the OLT, and it also deals with the various traffic features of the OLT. Now coming to the main menu button here. So we want to compress the expanded menu. We click on reload menu. All the menu gets compressed. Now let's go back to the home page, any information, and then here we can see the option called node inventory. This describes the various hardware or the ports which is available on the OLT. So the very first we can see the AC PSU. This particular OLT comes with only one power supply card, and it says it's up and present, so it's working fine, and this is the part number and the serial number of the card. And next here we see the fan tray unit or the fan card, so that appears to be working fine, up and present. And on the top, this is the main card or the main processor card on which we have the uplink or Ethernet ports. We can see here the temperature is shown here, 54 degrees centigrade. These are the ports. So this particular OLT, as described earlier in the physical overview, has 5 ports. We can see that the port is down, admin status is down, and the operation status is down. So I click here the port number 1. I can change the status of the port. Before I go to operate the port, let me complete the GPON card as well. You can see here the card number 4. Here it's listed as the 4x 2.5G capability PON ports. So just right away click on the GPON port. We can see here there are 4 ports listed. 1-4-1, it references the chassis number 1, card number 4, port number 1. And this is chassis number 1, card number 4 and port number 4. Here we have the port operations window. There's a button here, activate and deactivate. So by default it's deactivated. These are all the default settings. Now we come back here. Down below we can see this particular area is empty. There is no display here. As we insert the SFPs, either the Ethernet SFP or the PON SFP, they will get listed here along with their status and the serial number. Let's do that now one by one. Let's go and activate the uplink Ethernet port. So we make the admin up. The moment I make this up, we can see here there's a change. The Ethernet port number 1 is activated. However, it is showing the red color. The reason is we have not made the physical link through to the uplink device. Now let's insert an SFP into that port. I have inserted an SFP. Pictorial representation has changed. So this is an optical SFP. And when we go to the inventory table, we can see here an SFP has been inserted. We can see here, actually I wanted to insert in port number 1. Accidentally I have inserted in port number 2. I want to remove the SFP. So physically I remove that. Then it shows the status as down and not present. Then I delete it from the screen. I go back to the port provisioning page. Now we can see the SFP is removed. I go back to the ports. I see that my target port is Ethernet port number 1. So let me insert the SFP here. I can see here the SFP has got detected correctly in the targeted port. I go to node inventory, Ethernet port number 1. Operation status up and present. The SFP details are displayed here. The product code and the serial number displayed here. So let's navigate to the port and check. So I clicked on port number 1. I see link status is down because my uplink is not yet connected. And this, let's see the power. This page displays the various SFP parameters. We can see that the laser status is on. The receive power is absent because I have not connected the uplink. So these are the thresholds, preset thresholds for the SFP. The TX power is -5 dBm. The type of laser is mentioned here. It's a 1G capability with a distance capability of 10 kilometers and wavelength is 1310 nanometer. Next, let us try to activate a PON port. I want to activate the PON port number 4. So I click the PON port number 4, admin state, activate, scroll down and click submit. I go back to my home page. We see here the port number 4 is activated. The LED is on. However, it's red in color because it doesn't have any link connectivity. And we also see that the port is capped. So now we need to insert an SFP there. The inventory page, let's refresh the page. We see here on chassis number 1, card number 4, port number 4, an SFP or a PON port SFP has been detected. It's up and present. It's a class C plus SFP with the product code and the serial number. We go back to the home page. Here we see that the picture has changed and the port number 4 has a SFP and the LED is in amber. Let's click on the port. We see that the SFP is highlighted here. So now we see the various parameters of the laser and the power details. So it is on, and then the TX power is, or the output is plus 5 dBm. And these are the thresholds for this model of the SFP. Next, let us connect an ONT to this particular PON port and let's see if it's getting detected. On the left side, there's a menu called GPON. See various folders there, and there's a folder maintenance under which we see the manage ONT option. Under manage ONT option, all the ONTs which are detected will be listed. As we see here, right now it's blank. We do not have a ONT detected. We open this in a new tab to get a wider view. So we see that in the manage ONT table, the ONT has got detected. So this is the ONT ID and this is the serial number of the ONT. This is the serial number which is printed on the sticker of the ONT on the back side of the ONT. We can see that the admin status is enabled and then the physical status is activated, and the ONT or the type of ONT which has been detected is the hybrid model. The other two models are the RG model or the pure RG model and the pure bridge model. Then the application status is ready. This is the model number of the ONT and it says it's online, and here the MIB upload status. So for our ONT to be properly read into the OLT, this is an important parameter. The MIB upload status must show as success. If it is showing any other value, it means there is a problem in activation. We need to delete and reactivate the ONT. We have a table or a column name by the name conflict ONT. In case if the same serial number ONT has been accidentally detected or put on another PON port of the same OLT, so it would be a duplicacy in serial number, and such ONTs would be marked here as a conflict state ONT, and the system wouldn't allow service creation or service configurations on this one, on a conflicted ONT. Here we have a tab ONT info. We can see various features or parameters are listed here. These are explained in another video. In the status list, we can see the software version. Now we'll go back to the home page of the OLT. So we can see here as the ONT has got successfully activated, the LED is also in green color. There are a few other one-time settings which I would like to bring your awareness to. Navigate to the GPON card and we open this page, OLT information. We can see here there are a few policy or network operation settings. So by default, the activation policy of the ONT is auto discovery. This means that we plug in an ONT, any ONT plugged into the fiber, and if the ONT meets the OMCA standards, it would get detected or discovered automatically and displayed in the Manage ONT page. However, in many of the customers' locations, a higher security is required. So in such cases, a plug and play option is not advisable. There is a provision for the option called authentication by serial number. If we apply this option, the ONT is not automatically detected. We need to manually type in the serial number of the ONT into the browser and thereupon bring the ONT from an unprovisioned ONT to the Manage ONT page. Now we'll keep it auto discovery. We have an option here, disable ONU or DFA alarm, high receive power or low receive power. These options are provided to maintain integrity or sterility in the network. When there are thousands of ONTs in the network, improper power fluctuation would harm the stability of the network. Hence, if we choose these options as enabled, whenever the ONT crosses a certain higher optical power threshold or a lower optical power threshold, automatically the ONT would be deactivated by the software. They would need to be re-enabled or reactivated manually. Here we have the PM capability or the performance monitoring capability. By default it's enabled. Then we have an option here for the auto switching timer type. So this is for the type B PON protection mechanisms. And here we again have an option for disabling the ONT on a DOW alarm or a signal degrade alarm or a signal fail alarm. By default, let's keep these options disabled. And to choose these options as enabled, you can consult the Tejas technical support team and they would advise you accordingly. Here we see the option GPON folder. And down below we have the option maintenance. We can see here the folder unprovisioned ONT. So if we were to choose the option as discovered by serial number, then the ONTs which are plugged into the fiber would auto detect, but they would appear in the unprovisioned ONT list. We would not be able to configure services on them. From this table, they need to be moved to this Manage ONT table. That would happen if we were to manually perform the activity add ONT. We need to put the serial number and we need to configure the various port details and we need to configure them as a RG or a pure bridge or a hybrid. From here, they would be moved to the Manage ONT window. Those ONTs which are in the Manage ONT window, they would be available for traffic configuration. So let's again click the reload menu So we go to the GPON folder and we have the folder called traffic configuration. So the traffic configuration of the ONU is carried out from here. So these are explained in a different video. Now, for the sake of simplicity, we'll go back to only the physical configuration settings of the OLT. A feature called the uptime. So it's showing as 4 minutes because I have not refreshed the banner of the page. Once I reload the entire page, we can see here that the uptime is also updated. Now let's go to the closure of the video. So section 2 we have successfully completed. We have shown you the method how to log into the web browser, graphical user interface of the OLT, and how to bring up the OLT from a factory default state. Section number 3 will show you how to apply or bring back a OLT back into a factory default. Thanks for viewing this section. In this section of the video, we present to you how to apply or bring back an OLT to a factory default state. What is a factory default state? So this was explained in the beginning of the video. So the important point to note is that whenever the OLT is brought back into factory default state, the software or the firmware versions are not deleted or rolled back. They remain in the state what was before. Only the configurations are deleted. So let's straight away log into the OLT. On the left side menu, we have the option maintenance and then configuration management. Here we see restore configuration. So this option is used to restore a configuration file if you are already having with you. Here we see the option restore factory defaults. So we click on restore factory default, and the password will be the password for the user Tejas. Here there's a button restore factory default, and there's an option here proceed with restoration. So there will be an automatic reboot. So kindly ensure that the OLT is not accidentally powered down during the procedure. So we click on proceed with restoration. Meanwhile, we can also see the network connectivity. So there's a guidance message here, do not power cycle the node. It takes a few minutes for the OLT to lose the network connectivity. Meanwhile, the background operations are carried out. So now we see after a minute or two, we have lost the network connectivity with the OLT. As the default IP address remains the same, 192.168.1.254, let's observe that the OLT ping is recovered. So now we see here that the restoration configuration of the OLT is nearing completion, and the network connectivity to the OLT is re-established. So it would take about 2 minutes from the time of establishing the network connectivity to recover the browser login. We see here now we have recovered the OLT GUI login screen. The important parameter to note here is it's mentioned here welcome to default. Earlier the original name of the OLT was displayed here, but we can see here now it's in the name default. The password is again the default username and the default password for the login. We see here that we got a message, configuration is missing. It means that there are no settings or database file inside the OLT as of now. And we see the usual 3 options presented. This particular screen is the expected screen when a OLT is factory defaulted or it's unpacked from a box and powered on. With this, we complete this section of the video, how to apply a factory default to a OLT. I hope you are able to capture the various ideas and knowledge, and you will be able to independently set up a Tejas GPON OLT. The procedure given here is specific to a 4-port GPON OLT. However, this procedure or the steps is applicable to even the other model of the OLTs. Thank you for watching the video.